We're back. All I know about this game is the fish science lesbian game. Oh, 29%. That's interesting. We're a third of the way through our fish catalog. Cool. So I'm up there. I need to either get down here, over here, over here. I could easily do that now that I have the zoom. I could quickly go down here and grab this. I kind of wanna go zoom down there and grab some of that stuff before I deal with the bloom a little more. Let's go. Oh yeah, I forgot. I can't go anywhere. Need to go back this way and grab some of the science junk. I think it'll be this way that we can grab some of the screeching balloons. There should be one over here somewhere. Here we are. Now we go back. Try, we can swim up that big current now. Let's go, Dr. Ellery Voss. Who was the person we were looking for again? Started with an M. I'm sure she'll say her name soon enough. Beep. Come on, just bring me down to that rift. Here it is. Okay. The central rift is deep and wide, and its current is running down. It is relentless. Spores and other particles leave greasy streaks in the faceplate of your helmet as they hammer into it. Your suit creaks as you lean into flow, and unbroken walls suggest nothing worth risking my life for. The mushroom-shaped stalk cowers beside the rift, its cap broken and segments of it still sit in the sand. We could sample one here. Alright. Hell yeah. The cap section. That's exactly what we wanted. But what are we doing? We can just... We can just go back and study. We found what we wanted. Study. The Reef Cap Taxonomy updated. Research notes updated. The Reef Cap. Analysis of reef cap tissue show that the reef caps maintain a bacterial symbiote within a series of internal chambers, which, while unique to Gliese 667cc, resembles Epulopiscium, a large-celled bacteria found in the stomachs of terrestrial surgeonfish. Epulopiscium helps surgeonfish break down algae effectively, and the reef cap's bacteria seems to do the same, with traces of algae-like growths found in the cap's chambers. Where is this algae coming from? However the caps retrieve it, this algae is allowing the caps to grow bacterial colonies, which then reduce themselves to endospores when the algae is digested. These endospores are then released to the stalks in the local area to renew the strength of their colonies. It's an incredible recycling system for protecting this ecosystem. Oh. Spore-releasing gills. Supported reef stalks. So we've got the reef stalk. We still need the sing stalk. We've got the signal one. We've got the bloat. It's all like blown up and crazy. So those are the normal ones. Okay, I want to get a sing stalk. We should be able to get a sing stalk, I believe. I want to get a sketch of the sing stalks. Oh, there's one right here. I didn't need to go all the way over there. Huh. Beat. This western shelf is buffeted by the currents, bringing with them swirling scattered spores. Broken shelf of the reef spills out towards the deep like a hand. This is the first of the 3 fingers which marks the edge. Here the rift meets the exposed reef edge. What caused this huge slash into the shelf? Surely it's not just erosion. Across the channel is a gap in the wall. If strong currents rushing down the rift can be navigated, we can cross here. Shattered section of the wall allows passage onto the outcrop. This section of the shelf, sheltered by tall headland to the north, is strangely peaceful. These huge stones have been worn smooth by thousands of years of sitting beside the rift. The white sand has gathered against the boulders on either side of this passage in soft pale drifts. This tall stalk is torn open, perhaps by a predator? Inside, a rich tapestry of fungal life forms exposed to the open water, which are slowly dying. We got one. We can now study the sing stalks. Hell yeah! Beyond these thickly entwined stalks, a violent current can be heard, rushing down through a gap in the headland. The water is funneled by the rocks into this clearing, making it hard going against the rush. A large boulder protects the mouth of this passage from onrushing waters. Battered by the water, these stalks cling to the rocks. A single creature braves the current to graze on their twisted forms. Attached to the side of this shelf, this canopy is partially bent by the currents. We can sample a growth from its top. Little streams of sand pipe through the gaps in the rocks here, driven deep into the cracks by the current to the north. This gap between the rocks allows passage both into and out of this exposed second finger of the reef. Another rift separates the second and third fingers of the reef, looked over by a ragged stalk canopy that sheds particles into the flow. The long rift channels the strong current down the reef through all the way to the nurseries of the southern reef. It is both exhilarating and terrifying, like standing on a cliff top and leaning out into the wind. Across this wide rift, the tall rock walls of the reef's second finger have been seen. What lies inside? We know that now. Hell yeah, we made it. We've crossed the rift. We're close to a way station, we'll be fine. There's probably something up here that we weren't able to get to because of the current before, right? This is where Minae's suit was. Yeah, there's nothing up here. But I think the other way there was something, if I remember right. Oh, there is. Strong currents cut across the east edge of the shelf, with turquoise current stretching across the ocean beyond. I'm not sure I want to, actually. I think like last time I did this, it was a story bit to go back and retrieve the bacteria. So I think I'll go towards the story, and the story will take me back this way where I can... Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. Go towards the story, and I will find out it all on the way. I think it wants me to do that. Okay. Study! Fungal cluster, the sing stalk, and the table stalk. Alright. Attempts to analyze the interior of a sing stalk reveals many different organisms within the stalk, which are not genetically related to it in any way. It seems that the sing stalks are actually tubular gardens, which host juvenile fungal creatures. The swaying of the stalks keeps these sealed environments fed with filtered water and microbial life, while allowing their spores to be distributed across the reef. However, I haven't found a single example of any of these life forms growing outside of a sing stalk, suggesting that they can only survive within these carefully controlled tube gardens, and that the spores they release are being used by the stalks for other purposes. Are these vertical farms designed to cultivate other species that might feed the rest of the stalks with a shower of nutrient-rich spores? My god, they're farms. Wow. These stalk farms are like a giant brain, a community. It's like they've got farms, they've got little factories neutralizing a threat. What are the table stalks then? Whoops. So they've got the normal population, the gardens for food, the warning of threats, the factory, and the emergency response. Like, what else does it have? Table stalk. Laboratory studies of the growths found in the upper canopy reveals that they contain the genetic material of tens of different species. These growths hold within their round casing seeds for many species local to the table stalks, as well as spores for reproduction of the stalk colonies themselves. Fed by a carefully maintained flow of the correct minerals and chemicals, these seeds and spores are preserved by the stalks, kept viable for long periods. Could these seed banks be a complex example of collective serotiny? Serotiny. I'm gonna look that word up. I don't think I've heard that one before. Serotinity. Serotiny in botany simply means following or later. In the case of serotinous flowers, it means flowers which grow following the growth of leaves, or even simply flowering later in the season than customarily. What is meant by serotiny? Seed dispersal as a result of an ecological trigger, typically fire. Oh, collective serotiny. It's like a nursery, or like it's a seed bank. It's like an emergency seed bank. Just like we have emergency food storages and like we have sperm banks and that shit, they have seed banks. Huh. On Earth, some plants hold viable seeds until an environmental trigger, such as wildfire disease, causes their release. Perhaps the stalks are preserving the local ecology in case of environmental disaster. Are they the guardians of this reef? That's not what I thought they'd look like, but... yeah. They're big. So this is a complex society basically. We got the population, we got the farms, we got the warning, the military basically, but not really. It's like a warning system. We've got a factory that's fighting a threat, like neutralizing a threat. We've got a seed bank, and we've got an emergency response to struggling colonies. This is a complex symbiosis of multiple different species. Wow. That's cool. That is cool. There's only one more down here. Should I get that before going down towards these? Let's see. I kinda wanna. Okay, not down there. Wait, what were the shortcuts? Space to scan, control to scan off, W to set heading and move. Alright. East of the current fades into strange pillars rise up from the dark. A large pillar extends down into the murk deep, extending impossibly tall and straight, a geological anomaly. The pillar is topped with a layer of bright sunlit light. Looking around each of the pillars... Shit. Looking around each of the pillars here has the same green gold peak. Oh, there's new species up here. Maybe I should go back before I... Like, I want to explore it and learn more. But, like, I feel like I'm going to be sent here anyway. And I don't want to go before I'm supposed to. So I'm gonna continue into the bloom. Because as much as she's a biologist, she's a biologist with a purpose. Like, she wouldn't just... She's worried Minae has limited time. So I have stuff for oxygen, that's for power, and for both oxygen and... Okay, yep, so only one of these is totally useless, but I'm holding onto it anyway. Well, it's not totally useless, it's like... It would only be useful if this trip takes a long time. And I don't think it'll take... It's a long trip. We might need the fuel. These guys are to preserve my oxygen. And I've left one back at the ship, so I should be fine. Okay. The side of the bubble seems so close to the way station. If it were to shrink, any foothold we have in this green desert will be lost. Oh, it's really wide. Wider than I thought. Abandoned to the bloom by Minae, it is impossible to tell what this oxidated scrap once was. Clumps and trails of microbial growth trail across my visor. Wow, it's so wide. Nothing of interest, just more microbial clouds. Little sand has gathered around the distended base of this rock, enough to hide a creature from the bloom perhaps. Growth clumps in the eaten away dents in the rock floor, as if tunneling into the planet. World rock formations sit in the green cloud. Twisting in the direction of the bloom's flow, this fan cuts a slit of clear water through the microbial clouds. My emergency oxygen. I've run out of the little creatures, so... The rock floor here is covered in a thin layer of silt, unmoved by the currents or creatures. Scattered and eaten away, debris from Minae's expedition spread across this rock shelf, gathering in drifts of sand. Minae clearly tried to establish a base here, but was unable to resist the bloom. Why so deep in this toxic landscape? Silt is gathered in wide drifts of Minae's makeshift base. What was she looking for here? In the shadow of the ridge, the water here is still and clearer than elsewhere in the bloom. Among the rocks, twisted remains of some equipment, most likely brought here by Minae. Thick with microbial growth, the edge of the edge of the sinkhole is ragged with green wound in the rock in the ridge. Fuck, I'm going back. I didn't use these bacteria in the way that I probably should have. I need to hold on to them until something like that comes along. I need to do a little bit more reading. I don't want to be so rushed. Because we found a new species and I wanted to be able to give it the time it needs. These nest workers are so useful. Can I come back for a couple more? No. Don't want to over-harvest. Gotta leave them alone for a bit. Okay, let's go. Okay. I'm full. I don't think I need a shrill sack. Okay, we'll give this the proper time it deserves over here. Okay, now here. We have new creatures. So, thick with microbial growth, the edge of the sinkhole is like a ragged green wound in the edge of the rock ridge. Most likely brought here by Minae, lies oxidated and caked in growth. Is there anything to be found here, or am I just wandering blindly in this green desert? Thick fibers of microbial growth cobweb this dark entrance into the central ridge. A froth of green bubbles lies around the edge of the hole. We should be able to sample them here. Green bubbles. What are these? Bloom growth. These olive green clumps of bubbles seem to gather where... These microbial growths seem big enough to log and sample. Let's see what they can tell us about this place. Do you know... Oh, fuck. It's gone away. There is little current in the growth of the bloom settles. These bubbles form the densest areas of the bloom growth. They might be the best clue as to what the bloom is made from. Dark green bubbles that form in the most dense areas of the bloom where there is little current to provide water flow. We won't get much from observing this stuff. I've logged the species and let's analyze the samples back at the base. Let's descend. Oh, we're good down here. Safe haven. Almost. Curved walls streak the cascades of green bubbles, all glassy and sickly in the light of the suit's headlamp. Corroded into the tunnel mouth, this seal is stuck fast. The only way in would be to cut straight through. We don't have a cutter. What's this? Bloom bubble. Huh. Cool. It's sealed shut. Did Minae do this? It looks older. This has been here a long time. Curious. Scorched into the rock, this wide crater reveals a layer of broken stone and something smoother, shinier below. On the pitted surface of the scorched shelf, the lack of current has allowed the silt to gather in soft pines. Here the bloom has burnt deeper into the rock, revealing strangely smooth surfaces, like the inside of an oyster shell. Emerging out of the silt, this rock looks almost like a fossilized flower, blooming from a stocky stem. Refracted light of the bubbles fall across the drifts of silt. Though physical objects seem to be able to pass, the fizzing skin of the bubble completely obstructs the bloom's microbial clouds. A million tiny grains, perhaps the broken down remains of those silicate skeletons, gather here in the soft sparkling waves. At the center of the bubble, rounded shapes sit in a bed of silt. Around them the water dances with streaks of refracted light. These delicate silicate forms, like shattered geodesic domes, seem emptied of all life. What lived here before the bloom came? Nesting weavers. I'll call these weavers, for those beautiful nests and the bubbles they weave. What would we do without them? Nests of small iridescent creatures which maintain protective bubbles around their territory, shielding them from the bloom. Open geometric forms, beautiful and strange, sit huddled within the skin of the bubble. Geometric. Sphere fragment. Is this just another sphere fragment? Okay. This bubble has an iridescent sheen, its skin being made up of thousands of tiny particles which reflect the light. Among the green clouds of the polychromal light of a huge bubble glows. Part of the bloom is strangely still, a cloud suspended in the water. Yeah. Okay, so we've been down around here. Away from the protective bubble, the bloom regains its sickly green. Heavy concentrations of microbial life turn the water here into a flat green wall. The bloom seems endless. Small holes, perhaps burrows, dot the waves of the silt. Globular bubbles sit under the overhang of this corroded rock. This would be a good place to sample the bloom's growth. The rocks deep inside this scar strewn with strange smoothness. Around this towering pillar of whirled rock, opaque green bubbles gathered, pouring out of the corroded cracks. small bloom bubbles, it's fine. Soft currents push silt into the corroded holes of the rock shelf. South of the bloom's ridge, the current is non-existent. Clumps of microbial growth hang in the water above the sandy plain. Through the green, I can see a skeleton of Minae's remote laboratory, as fractured and remote as Minae herself. Assembled from modules extracted from the base, Minae's lab, now exposed to the corrosion of the bloom, sits silently in the silt. This place was pressurized at some point. It must have taken months of the work to establish this lab. And just weeks of corrosion for it to fall into ruin. It looks like Minae was gathering those mineral skeletons, studying them. What secrets have you uncovered, Minae? How are these strange silicon spheres worth all this? I don't know. As we are now, Minae must have relied on the protective bubbles of these spheres to study the bloom in its ecosystem. More of these ornate silicate globes sit in the silt. These bubbles must have been both their refuge and their grave. I don't need another sphere fragment right now. Dissected skeletons. The equipment here suggests Minae was studying the mineral skeletons. Where she has cut through, the silica shines pure silver. Beyond the bubble, the angular shape of the lab's second module sits silently wrapped with cords of microbial growth. These modules are so rapidly melting away. Are the bloom's microbes metabolizing the metal itself? I'll go up here first. Corroded module. Outside the protective bubble, this module has been corroded beyond recognition. The froth of bloom growth covers rusted plates. Ceramic conductor. Pulled from the base generator, Minae looks to have been using the bloom as a vast microbial fuel cell to power her work here. This nest once protected this lab's module, but now it's clogged with growth. With the colony gone, we could sample its structure. Nest fragment. We made it. Oh, there's a hole down there. I see that. Ooh. A holed metal floor of the module reveals an opening to a passage below. Down we go. Steel passage. Minae must have laid this under the lab when she constructed it. The water is clearer here, shielded from the microbial clouds. Hidden workshop. Machines glint in the dark. Papers and tools lie still on the silt-speckled surfaces. It is as if the scene has been frozen, captured in time. This is not just a lab, it's a workshop. She was building something down here. It's a suit. It looks like she was modifying an old atmospheric hard suit. How deep was she planning to go? These are verified for beyond 1,000 meters. I'm going to see what I can pull from the notes and documents here. Some of them are still partially readable. The lack of water flow must have kept them in good condition. She was definitely speccing this suit for use beyond the drop-off, modifying it with silicate skeletons. Artificers, she calls them. Exoskeletons of nanofibrous geothite, protecting a silicon carbonate core. The pressure resistance of their exoskeleton is unprecedented for a biological material. That would take the depth rating of the hard suit well past 3,000 meters. Incredible. But why go over the drop-off at all? What was pushing her forward? She was incredibly driven. Desperate even. She mentions sending ROVs down to the abyssal plain, cobbled together from bits of the base. All of them were lost, and her work on the suit failed. That's where the notes seem to end. The most recent documents mentions another way. Did she make it? How? The suit was so close to a completion, why abandon it? We have to make that dive. If I can fix up this suit, we can take it over the drop-off. Perhaps Minae managed it. We need to follow. I can do this. We can do this. Let's get back outside and call the drone. Let's do it. What was Minae doing? The abyssal plane? Holy balls. There ain't no sunlight in the abyssal plane. Wait. There's still more area over here that we haven't been to yet. Let's go up to this other bubble. These strange rocks are beautiful. If only the bloom didn't keep us from lingering longer. Is the bloom part of a regular cycle or a single catastrophic event? This fan looks greener than the others, its delicate spines clogged with growth. Even these remarkable creatures can succumb to the bloom. Between the wall of the ridge and the corroded shelf, a wide strip of pale silvery silt. Ridge outcrop. A boxy outcrop of the bloom's central ridge lies out of the green growth. The microbial filaments peek out of the drift's curious cells, like curious eels. A lone fan holding out against the toxins provide a strip of oxygenated water. Just normal fan dust. I'm sure there's another... Silt gathers against the side of the ridge, which stretches up into the blinding green. Okay, we've been here. So it's down here, there was another area. A thin gap between a boulder and a towering ridge. A dead fan. The fan lies in a bed of green toppled by the weight of the microbial growth, its stem exposed. We could sample it here. Piece of stem from a dead fan creature. Alright, I think that's everything. Now we go back. I'm pretty sure that's everything. Why did Minae want to go down to the abyssal plane? What was she desperately looking for? What was so important? Glad to see you are back online. Sorry for the rush, but we've got to move. I've been going through Minae's notes from her lab, and from what I can tell, she attempted a free dive over the drop-off. That's why she left her suit behind. She must have opened it up and descended. I know what you were thinking. There's no way she could free dive thousands of meters to the ocean floor. But that's what she did. Willingly. And we are going after her. We need to dive now. I've been working on the suit and it's almost ready. I've used sections of Minae's failed hard suit to modify our suit. Now it's a full atmospheric dive suit. Internally, we should be able to maintain 1 atmosphere of pressure for me, and that casing of yours. It'll work just like before, but our depth rating is massively increased. We can hit 2, maybe 3,000 meters. The suit is in the bay, so load whatever samples you need. I've marked the drop-off on the map. We can dive there directly and search for any evidence there. I have no idea why she would do this. It's suicide. But she seems to believe she could do it. Get ready to go. I'll be waiting. Why would a free dive work? What possible reason could she have to think that would work? I'm gonna have a drink of water before I read this. Finding that laboratory in the bloom. It is almost like working with Minae again. I still have some good memories of Kepler 62F. Hours diving beneath that ice, in that crystalline ocean, sampling the mineral deposits that Minae claimed were evidence of life. Our synchronized rhythms in the lab, working silently, but in concert, lying beside her in the too narrow berth, the creak of pack ice rattling down the base's spine. But those memories come with unwelcome ones attached. One of Minae's quiet judgment, her deep sadness, her flaring anger. For a few short months, that subglacial ocean was ours, blocked from the universe outside by 5 kilometers of ice. Its secrets were our own. But then, Minae had other secrets too. It seems like I will never escape her secrets. Here I am living among them, drowning in them, picking through them in search of answers. There we go. Oh, I forgot to transfer the other samples. Well, the bubbles. Let's study these samples. The bloom fan updated. The nesting weavers updated. Multiple taxonomy entries updated. Ooh. Alright, let's find out. The bivalve bloom vein. Ooh. Sampling and analyzing bubble growths from the bloom shows that they are a form of algae, but with incredible adaptability. They have a distinctive chemical structure, but notable to the study of the bloom veins is the presence of a compound similar to domoic acid within the bloom bubbles. Domoic acid is a neurotoxin known to produce memory loss and confusion in animals, which suggests that the erratic and frantic feeding behavior of the bloom veins when feeding is, in reality, a form of frenzy brought on by the consumption of the neurotoxin. How this process isn't deadly to the bloom veins is unclear. The volumes of neurotoxin they are consuming are vast, enough to kill a human adult. Perhaps if I can directly examine a bloom vein, or at least its shell, I can understand their resistance. And it was neurotoxin resistance because of tiny holes or something? What do the bloom veins look like? Ooh! They have a pinhole eye. Ooh. They stay like this and then they go shoo. Okay, so the nesting weavers. Weavers are creatures found in the bloom where they build elaborate cylindrical nests protected by bubbles of oxygenated water, iridescent and translucent. Weavers themselves are difficult to observe individually due to their size and speed. Each nest is a hive of activity, as is the fizzing skin of the bubbles that protect them, which the weavers carefully maintain. If at any point the integrity of that bubble seems to be collapsing, many weavers will rapidly respond, leaving the nest in swarms to rebuild the bubble's skin. What is it that the weavers are protecting? How are they shielding themselves so effectively from the bloom? Analysis of individual weavers might help, if we are able to catch some of them. Analysis of weaver specimens show them to be shelled creatures, with a set of jointed mandibles, which they use to handle their threads. These threads are the most fascinating aspect of the weavers. They are silk, but lined with a type of bacteria which lives inside the mouthparts of the weaver. When the threads are produced, they are coated with this bacteria, which aggressively consumes the microbial growth of the bloom. When not producing this silk, this bacteria is kept alive by scavenging on the food that the weavers eat, taking their share from the particles stuck on the weaver's mouthparts. However, analysis of the weavers themselves still gives no idea of what might lie in their nest. They protect these nests aggressively, but if I could find an abandoned one, it may be possible to sample it. The pieces of the weaver nest we found offer an insight into the weaver's protective behavior. Wrapped in its threads are thousands of weaver eggs. This suggests that, like ants or termites, weavers are an eusocial species, with many generations of weavers protecting and maintaining a singular, productive female. These weaver queens must be somewhere within the active weaver nests, protected by layers of silken threads and weaver workers. Nest fragments also revealed that weavers farm their own food within the nest structure, carefully maintaining tubular fields of microbes, which, through the weaver's careful cultivation, seem to produce oxygen rather than the toxins that poison the bloom. How can this be possible? Weaver, not to scale. Ooh. They're kind of like krill or ants or something like that. Translucent layered shell. Ooh. All like spiders because they have like a nest of web. Cool. Branchymorph, the bloom fan. Study of the bloom fan's stem reveals that below the sand, a bloom fan has 4 jointed legs and a head with a circular mouth. Using these, the bloom fan scrapes through rock and sand in order to extract minerals and biological compounds. Bloom fans may feed on the roots or even the buried eggs of other bloom species. This source of nutrients, when supplemented by oxygen gathered through its tail fan, which is in fact more of an external lung, is enough to sustain the bloom fan for a long period, especially due to its mostly static lifestyle. What this also suggests is that there may be a larger subterranean ecosystem which remains undiscovered beneath the bloom. Is this where life has retreated in these toxic conditions? Oh, they're not circular, they're like a fan. Cool. Neat. I kind of have to read through it a second time quickly in my head because voicing it kind of like I'm focused on saying the words correctly and not what they mean. So they have an external lung. Cyanophyta, blue-green algae. Ugh. Bloom froth. These clusters of opaque green bubbles can be found clinging to surfaces in the quieter areas of the bloom, where currents do not disturb their growth. They appear to be accumulations of the bloom's microbial growth. The green clouds that create this vast toxic cloud of anoxic water. The bloom itself is a mysterious phenomenon, similar to terrestrial algae blooms, hence the name Minae gave this part of Gillies 667cc's ocean, but far more potent in its strength, and seemingly much longer lasting, as much of the life in this sector has adapted to these extreme conditions. The similarity to the terrestrial blue-green algae, aka cyanobacteria, has led me to declassify this species as bacterial, but this thesis needs to be tested. Perhaps by analysing this froth, we can understand the underlying chemical processes taking place here. Laboratory analysis of the froth has shown that each large bead in the bloom's froth is a single microbial colony, bound by a gelatinous film, much like terrestrial cyanobacteria of the order of Nostocales. However, unlike this terrestrial species, the bloom froth displays an incredible ability to actively modify their internal chemistry to whatever conditions they find themselves in. Most bloom froth appears to have diverted to consuming metallic compounds found in unusual abundance in the region of the bloom, rather than sunlight. This has led to the bacteria outputting large volumes of neurotoxins rather than oxygen. It is this which has left the bloom both anoxic and toxic. To understand more, we need to find the source of this destructive bacteria. We need to find a sample of the source of the bloom. Damn, I don't know how we're gonna find that. Perhaps we'll find a cutter and be able to cut into that lab. Maybe they'll give us answers. The drop-off. The highest levels of toxicity surround this hole in the bloom's central ridge. If we could get below this point, we could sample the bloom source. Yeah, but we need a cutter. We can't cut through the big door. Alright. The drop-off. We're gonna go down to the abyssal plane. Why the hell would Minae free dive down there? She'd be crushed! How did she possibly think she'd survive? What a mad woman. Did she drink some neurotoxin by accident and just go fucking nuts instead of dying? Oh, not that way, I guess. How do we get to the drop-off? Okay, this is just a crossing point. No, this just takes us into the bloom. So maybe up to where... Wait! Oh, I know. We need to go to where Minae's suit was. Oh, that's why there was an empty suit there. Oh my god, she just dived off. If I'm right, oh my god, if I'm right, that's where she dived off. And so that's where we should go. Let me be wrong and she's found another way. Okay, I was wrong. Maybe I should go this way? Let's look at the map again. That probably is where she went, but we're going a different way. I kind of want to go down this way and get that pedal location. But I'll go see if I can find the way to the drop-off first. Or can we just go straight there? Wait, could I click on the drop-off? Wait. Oh my god, I can. No, we're gonna explore over here first. Down here. I have a feeling now this is extra stuff, not somewhere we're going next. Because if we're going down into the abyss, that's where Minae's story is taking us. Not over here. That's different to what I expected, but holy shit. So what's this? Feathery creature. These funny feathery creatures are all around these gardens. Let's start observing their movements. A cleverly camouflaged creature mainly composed of feathery frond-like arms which waves rhythmically as it moves. Huh. Silken plant. These long, pale green strands of plant matter entwine a flat blades which trail horizontally between the pillars. These twisted strands are like webs between the pillars. Let's start logging them. Patterns of dents in the sand show a path of the feathery creature that cross from pillar to pillar. in slow, purposeful loops. Shed feather. These silken strands meet in places and become tangled in one another, forming complex webs that are slow to navigate. In sunlight, these spade-like petals open themselves wide to the light, welcoming it gratefully. It appears that a number of the creature's feathery arms have sharp edges that it uses to prune the pillar garden's flora. Bright pollen. I've observed these feathered creatures moving between pillars along web-like plants that connect them. Between the pillars, bright green webs of tendrils extend, forming thin pathways from garden to garden. These entwined tendrils are flat, like blades of kelp, and hold themselves taut between the pillars' tops. This patch of water is entirely enclosed by web's tendrils, and thin strands float through the water like lost hairs. The gaps between the tendrils are webbed with fine strands almost invisible to the naked eye. Ooh. Silken strands. Oh, so I can go through it, but slowly. These trailing plants can be of great length and appear to only grow from the sides of the pillars. How did they form? Green tendrils that enclose this space seem to calm the currents, creating a pool of still water. Observing the underside of these plants, I can see a layer of pores, stomata, perhaps, for waste release? With shimmer balloons around. Open water. The green tendrils don't seem to reach east beyond this point, preferring instead to turn back to the protective waters south of here. This pillar top is thick with waving petals, each one caked in tiny particles of golden pollen. We don't need bright pollen. Out away from the pillars, the ocean grants a sense of vertigo, fading down into unknown depths below. This pillar, unlike the others, lacks a garden of its own. Have the plants been cleared, or have they simply not reached this far yet? The light of the system's three suns falls into something amber and huge to the east. It's almost like a pale orange cloud. I think I'm heading in a direction I shouldn't be heading. Maybe this is a whole other area that we're gonna go eventually. You can't tempt me with markers on the map to find more species. No, we don't need more silken strands. I've observed these plants in shades which stretch from bright green to ivory white. Is this an indication of their age or health? These two tendril bridges meet before disappearing into the holes in the pillar. Are they rooted to the rock inside? It seems that if they're knocked off a surface, these creatures can swim, but very inefficiently. Must be an emergency measure. I've noticed these strands don't connect directly to the pillars, but disappear into holes in their sides. What are they connected to then? Sea silk. I've named this sea silk, though I'm not sure what kind of plant it is. Check my notes back in the base. Long strands of pale green and white plant matter that twist into broad, flat bridges and webs between the pillar gardens. This broad pillar is full of rough-looking boreholes, chitin plates glinting here and there, suggest they are burrows. Ooh, what the heck? Burrowing creature. When disturbed, this segmented creature shot out of its burrow. These creatures are tricky to catch a glimpse of. Let's see if we can scare up a few more. Ejecting grit and sediment as they swam away. Quite a surprise. Ooh. Shit in plate. I'm running out of space. Too much. The lower parts of this pillar are marked with narrow holes. Around them, small plates of chitins shells glint. Where'd they go? Damn. Don't need more than one. Twisting tendrils. What dictates which pillars the tendrils stretch to and from? I'm yet to see a tendril which is only halfway formed. These creatures scrape away at the pillar's surface, carving their burrows into the rock. It is impressive given the density of the pillars. The gaps between the pillars are a pattern I cannot read, one that speaks of a complex geological history. This impossibly thin pillar rises up from the murk like a pencil, its sides marked by faint strata of geological eons. Crossing creatures. Feathery creatures that pass along the tendrils seem to be unshakable in their routines, each one carefully doing its rounds. It's apparent that the matter from the blooms, such as pollen, collects in this creature's feathery arms. Is this intentional? A gardener. I'm calling these gardeners. They are so attentive and purposeful. I want to know more about them. A feathery, slow-moving creature that prunes the plants of the pillar gardens, moving between the pillars along their silken bridges. Ooh. I wonder what they look like. Miniature garden. Some of these pillar tops are very small, but doesn't seem to stop the petals colonizing them with their bright shapes. This is so cool. Gotcha. Oh, damn it. Pillar crossing. How did these monoliths form? Perhaps they are cores of harder rock which remained when the rest was eroded away. I have nothing more to say about this game. There's so much here. And oh my goodness. I've observed these creatures have a bright tail lure made from many thin pointed plates. What its purpose is, I wonder. All the wondering that I usually do in the game is like already done by the woman like I'm playing. She's so attentive and curious. It's like I'm playing myself. The individual thin fibrous strands which make up these pillar bridges are so fine they could almost be silk. It's easy to get confused once you're among these webbed tendrils, navigating between the sunken islands of life. The tendrils seem to be avoiding this pillar. In fact, they appear to be avoiding the main shelf of the reef altogether. The tendril is stretched to a long distance to bridge these pillars. How do they grow like this without any support? Too small to enter, this hole in the pillar leads deep into the rock. The tailpiece left by the inhabitants sits just inside. Perhaps we could sample it. A pillar worm. Ooh. I'll name these pillar worms. They seem to have burrows all over the place. These long, segmented creatures with distinctive bright tails burrow into the hard rock of the pillars to protect themselves. Neat. Shed tail. Huh. Where these tendrils meet, the feathery creatures are able to carefully clamber from one to another, leaving behind feathers as they do. These tendrils have grown close enough to each other to form a complex tangle of strands between the pillars. Oh, I wish there was more visual to this rather than the sketches. I so want to see what the hell this looks like, because it sounds fascinating. This pillar top is a little sparser than some of the others. Perhaps these more southern pillars have only recently been seeded. Down here, only a single bridge leads from pillar to pillar, a lone creature braving the currents as it crosses. Despite sitting all the way out here, this pillar is hooked up to the others by a long tendril. A creature has left behind one of its delicate arms here, perhaps in order to escape from a predator? We could take a sample of it. We haven't seen any predators yet. Feather arm. A feather arm clogged with pollen from the pillar gardens. Out of the way of the other gardens, this wide pillar feels like a calming sanctuary, a blob of green and gold in a sea of blue. Such poetic language too, I love this game. I don't need more bright pollen. Exposed tendril. A tendril loosely dangles from the pillar, its roots half pulled out of the rock. It is pale and bulbous. We could sample it here. I'm using some of these bits that I have had from the bloom because I want to get these bits back because I haven't studied them. One final bridge stretches down to the southernmost pillar, its strands swaying with the rising current. Hold pillar. Despite being so thick, this pillar is cut through with small holes, and on its top a couple of shell plates catch the light. We've already got a chitin blade. These small young petals are starting to open up to the suns of Gliese 667cc. This place will be even more beautiful one day. The young petals. This is what we were looking for. This is what I came this way for. Petal shoot. A new shoot of a petal plant from the pillar gardens. Alright. Now we can go back. Because the only place we didn't go was to the far right, because it felt like that was going to a whole new area. Didn't want to go there too early. Alright. We've got so much to study now. Look at all this. Shimmer blooms. You can't go anywhere early explore? Okay, sure. It's just because like when I went and explored the reef on the west, she was talking like she hadn't seen those bulbous ones before, and so I was like, that feels like a sequence break. Updated the shimmer blooms. A spherical translucent ball. Is this a root? Sea silk. The gardener. The pillar worm. More of the pillar worm. The sea silk. And the shed feather. Okay, that's everything. Oh, we got some gaps here. Gardeners are feathery, slow-moving creatures that live among the pillar garden flora. Their upper part is mainly composed of densely packed, fern-like arms. Underneath is a body resting on a dense profusion of short, root-like legs that anchor the gardener, but also enable it to walk, albeit very slowly. As gardeners move, they also rhythmically wave their arms, though it is unclear if this is for balance or part of their pruning action within the petal gardens they inhabit. Gardeners don't do anything fast, but they do travel between the pillars using the silken tendrils that grow between them. More analysis is needed to discern why, and what their relationship to these gardens really is. Analysis of a gardener's feather, which I have called a pinule, has revealed the gardeners feed on the same thing they camouflage themselves as, the garden's petals. The gardener feather pinnules have a razor-like edge, with which a gardener cuts away thin sections of petals to feed on, without damaging the plant. However, unlike an actual feather, they contain nerves, suggesting the gardener can deliberately control them for precise pruning and for maneuvering in the water if they become dislodged from a tendril bridge. Quite why they risk such journeys, given their ineffective swimming, remains to be seen. Further study may unlock the puzzle of their purpose within the biome. Analysis of a gardener's arm filled with pinnules has shed some light on the relationship between them and the pillar gardens. The debris coating the sample is actually pollen from various garden species, suggesting that gardeners are an important part of the cross-pollination process. This means their contribution to the ecosystem is not just limited to pruning the blooms, they help propagate them too. Indeed, given their roaming paths from pillar to pillar, they must have some way of communicating and ensuring that no one garden becomes wilted or overgrown. This could be a eusocial hive structure or a territorial signature they leave behind. Either way, they're a well-coordinated team of marine landscape gardeners. Oh. I imagine them like kind of bird-like, but nah, they're disguised as algae. Or like seaweed or whatever the garden they're pruning is. I'm gonna drink of water. Damn, Elle, you got some good drawing skills. Nice sketch artist. Setaphora. Sectiotinea. Oh, there's scientific names for these as well. Fuck. Tegumentum hortostella. Damn. Pillarworms are long, thin, segmented creatures that live deep in the dark tunnels and recesses of the rock pillars found in the East Reef. They're frustratingly difficult to observe properly, due both to their shyness and their surprisingly rapid swimming speed. They can, however, be startled out of their burrows by consistent tapping on the rock. Once glimpsed, it's evident that they have striations that taper into a bright, lure-like tail. Their front half is protected with overlapping rigid plates. They also seem to be burrowing or excavating creatures, ejecting dust and sediment periodically from their burrows. Further analysis is required to determine why they live so reclusively within the pillars. Analysis of pillarworm chitinous plates show a creature heavily adapted to its burrowing lifestyle. It seems that the chitinous plates found around the organism's head are precisely grooved, allowing the worm to chip away at existing recesses to create tunnels, and funneling the sediment back towards the entrance. These grooves should also help protect the creature's head from abrasions while traversing the burrows. It's logical then that these bugs create the tunnels that other life, especially the silken tendrils and the petal gardens, require. They must be one of the foundations of this unique ecosystem, turning the hard rock pillars into vertical gardens through their obsessive burrowing. Dissection of a pillarworm's tail has shed light on their hunting and feeding behaviors. The tail itself is made from many panels of bright translucent chitin. Given the tail's brightness and the way it waves in the current, it's reasonable to conclude that the worms are using it as a lure. There's slight grammatical errors, and I'm willing to forgive them because it's obviously written by a person like studying this stuff. It's not like a robot written or like a book written over hundreds of years. It's like she just wrote this. There's gonna be some tiny grammatical errors, so it's easily forgivable. It makes it more believable even. It could be an effective tool for the worm to attract small grazers to a tunnel's mouth with before pouncing from the burrow and pulling its prey into the hole with it. Yeah, like that. Like, that could easily be changed slightly to flow a bit better, but like, she's just written this and she's studying a lot of creatures. These like imperfections in the writing are like almost intentional. It's great. However, the tail might serve another function too, as a countermeasure against predators. Was this specimen bitten off or willingly ejected? Either way, the pillar worm remains good at hiding its secrets within those dark burrows. Oh, that's not what I thought they looked like at all. Oh. Oak leaf markings. Feeding mandibles, tunneling limbs. Ooh. They really are like worms. So like you only see this part on the like surface of the thing, but when you like, when they fly out, they go like in like little worm-like. Oh, that's cool. Punctifolia. The shimmer blooms. Analysis of a shimmer bloom shoot has revealed a coiled stalk which each shimmer bloom possesses, allowing them to control their height in the water. This means that if a shimmer bloom grows beyond the optimum depth for photosynthesis, it is able to extend its stalk and rise in the water towards the surface. However, due to the constant sunlight, which is an effect of there needs to be a shorter way of saying that. Like, it's easy for her to write that every time, like type it out, but saying that is a little, which is an effect of Gliese 667cC's tidally locked orbit. Shimmer blooms also use this ability to retract themselves away from the sun in order to protect themselves from cell damage. These beautiful plants are highly attuned to their environment, and I can think of no better species to give Minae's name to. It's a name that deserves to live on this place. I'm sorry I can't do more. Wait, if you say shimmer... Oh! Solcultor Minae. Oh, that's what she gave... Oh, she gave it Minae's name to the scientific name of it. That's cool! Yeah, that's basically exactly how I imagined him. Extendable stalk, recessed stamens, Shimmerbloom garden. Yeah, they're like singular leaves. Except for this like shoot in the middle. So like they can pull the things down to like hide, and like the leaf will like curl around the top of the stalk to prevent damage. Rad. This is so creative. This is so freaking creative. Sea silk. Vivispons sericus. This bright green plant stretches its silken tendrils in long horizontal swathes between the pillars in the East Reef. This plant is characterized by its fibrous, fine, and flexible strands that can be as thick as rope and as thin as human hair, appearing almost white in the sunlight. How they form their bridges and why the plant tendrils do not rise to the surface is unclear. I've observed one plant intertwined with strands from other pillars, and when these multiple strands meet, often in areas roughly equidistant from their respective pillars, they seem to form a web. I wonder if strands from individual plants are drawn to one another. Analysis of a strand of sea silk has shown that it is, in fact, from two different plants that have somehow conjoined where they met. Moreover, there are younger growths formed near the end of each plant's strand, demonstrating their ability to form new shoots along their length, which must be why I've observed a web-like pattern in some of the tangles. However, new growths require a good deal of energy. The strands are green on one side, a sign of photosynthesis no doubt, but their underside is distinctly darker and more porous looking. Are the strands able to absorb matter floating up from underneath them? I need to analyze a root structure or similar to find out more. I was surprised to discover that the sea silk does not end in roots. After finding a damaged strand, I found it emanating from a kind of silken ball that I initially took to be a root. However, in lab analysis it was revealed to be an entirely separate creature. The sea silk is a product of a plant-like limb of this organism. I discovered the root itself to be able to put down, but also retract strands of sea silk from within. It's an unusual fusion of creatures. Is this a symbiotic relationship or a parasitic one? Regardless, these curious creatures and their growths are like the bridge builders of the pillar ecosystem, turning isolated gardens into an interconnected network and helping them flourish. Damn. A root creature. Cool. So there's the spore catcher, which is Legulus striatus, Bivalvia felfilum, Nubulus strigulus, Polymetarius gregis. I like being able to pronounce these, like pronouncing frickin' scientific words. It feels good, it feels smart. Colus cautis, Colus cantrix, Colus nuntius, Colus tumidus, Colus nopium, Colus agaricus. I love being able to pronounce those. It feels good. Ventricaria vasfellis. Okay, I should go a little bit more off to the east, because that's the only thing I have left that I can't get. I see no reason why I shouldn't continue to the east, if what Zeph says is correct. Let's go. Look, to the east. So it's just up here. It is almost like a pale orange cloud, something huge in the east. Ooh, what is that? A shifting tentacle. This translucent tentacle doesn't have a fixed shape. Its individual parts instead cycle through development phases as they cohere. Do I want to go through it? Seems fine. What the hell is this? A floating colony. Ooh. This creature is impossibly large. I don't even know how to start logging data on it. But I'll try. These golden yellow streams of life shift around solid objects, held suspended in the water. Are these bones? Rocks? Or something else? This hard barrier is webbed with pulsing nodes. To gain access, we would need to slice through it somehow. Ah, yeah, so we can't go any further. Yeah, you're right. What are we looking at here? This appears to be a huge colonial life form. There are passages inside, but unless we can cut this barrier, we can't reach them. I'm not going to look at these, because we can't technically see them. They're behind barriers. Ah, fuck it. We can scan them. This golden colony is overwhelming. Where to even begin? Thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of zooids make up its shifting interior. It seems that the zooids are split into specialized functions and forms, from jellyfish-like medusoids to balloon-like bladders of gas. And that's all I can see. So I gotta go back. Time to dive into the abyss. So we know where Minae dived from. But we're diving directly down. The drop-off. Ugh, I just got a shiver down my spine. Let's go, I guess. What are we gonna find here? Are you back with me? We are 20 seconds from the ocean floor. Yeah, I'm here. Good. I was getting lonely in here. We are descending fast. The drop is huge, 1.5 kilometers down. Let's stay focused. We have no data on this zone of the ocean. The light of Gliese 667 cc's 3 stars barely make it this deep. I've got my headlamps on. You'll have to be my eyes. I want to work my way along the slope to the northeast. We are looking for any traces of Minae, or the ROVs she sent down here. Let's get to it. We are 1,510 meters down. Fuck me, this is deep. Sheer wall of the shelf descends through the faint light to curve into thick silt of the slopes. The dusk slopes. Beyond the reach of the suit's lamps, the slopes descend slowly into the dark, towards the abyssal plane. I'm gonna get closer to the mic so I can give this some moody, atmospheric stuff. The heavy currents of the upper ocean don't reach down here, leaving the water still and silent, sediment suspended in the column. Pale glow, a bioluminescent glow drifts through the silt, a faint but noticeable chemical blue. Tangled veil. These silken creatures are almost transparent, apart from those lights. What are they? These drifting veils of material appear to be creatures of some kind. They are pulsing faintly, with pinpricks of light. This veil stretches away from the tangle of the group, reaching towards new territories. Field of veils. Diaphanous veils twitch, suspended in the water. They are seeded with pinpricks of bioluminescence, like distorted star fields. I hope this sounds alright and I'm not like speaking too quietly and it's not being fucked up with noise suppression or whatever. In the headlamps of the suit, I can occasionally see a vein-like texture to the surface of these veils. What substances sustain them? Though their soft, shifting forms can be hard to see, this seems to mark the edge of one of the veils. Veils are gathered in groups, which I'm calling tangles. They seem to be intentional formations, but for what purpose? Between these two veils, some clear water is visible, a temporary corridor between two hanging sheets. We're not going to go through it, just in case. The light the veils produce come directly from beneath their skin. They shift from transparent to light-emitting in undulating waves. Ooh, that sounds so pretty. Though tangled and without any clear sensory organs, these creatures seem to have strong control over their position in the water. Surrounded on all sides by drifting sheets of bioluminescence, this space is a fluid, shifting interior. Studded along the veins are the remains of creatures that have been confused by the lights and caught by these transparent hunters. So we should not go through it then. A gap between the veils, is it that these are two competing individuals, or is this just a temporary separation of a single group? We're gonna go through it. Let's try. Let's go. Don't hurt us. Ooh! Yep, that hurts our power. Good to know. The veil delivered some kind of stunning electrical shock to the suit. Is that how they disable their prey? We should be careful of contact with these species. Yep, just like I thought. Why delicate... Oh, snare veil. I'm naming these creatures snare veils. They are such beautiful traps. At closer inspection, these veils are jeweled with half-digested remains of other life, passing conveyor-like from one veil to the next. Wide, delicate silken panels of bioluminescent cells, they work in unison to entrap and digest creatures which come too close. Let's get a sample. And not get zapped while we're doing it. Digested remains of an unknown creature caught by a veil and partially digested. Part of it for power, because we're going to get zapped again when we leave. Veil edge. Here the tangle is receding, a few of its trailing veils hanging still in the dark water, like poised limbs of a dancer. Oh, fuck. Scared the shit out of me, even though I knew it was coming. This veil is blinking in the same sequence of the lights over and over. Perhaps this is a way of attracting curious prey into their grip. Why didn't Minae tell anyone about this place? The life here, it's the biggest discovery in human history. Do you think she is trying to protect it? Perhaps. But then why bring me here? Maybe she expects me to keep her secrets too? She always had her secrets, but this feels bigger than that. Bigger than what? What secret did she hold? Dark water. Away from the veils, the water returns to its inky darkness, resisting the strong beams of the suit lamps. Silt has gathered around the base of two large outcrops, forming a natural respite from the steady downward pitch of the slopes. Dark basalt layers rise up out of the slope like fractured towers, each jagged layer carrying drifts of silver silt. These dark towers of angular stones are telltale signs of volcanic processes active under the planet's surface. What must be one of Minae's improvised remote vehicles lies twisted in the silt. Could it have been disabled by the veils? This debris, it's one of Minae's ROVs. Wait, to my left, is that... Human. It's... No, it's her? Is she alive? Static body. Is that... Oh, God! No, she can't be dead. No. She's here. She's alive. Thank God. Oh my God, she's alive. We're reading life signs and... She's breathing. That can't be right. How long has she been here lying in the silt? We have to bring her back to the base, but I don't... Okay, focus, Ellery. What do we do? We can use the ROV to boost our signal to the base, send for a drone, then we can start the ascent. Get me back to the ROV debris, and hook us up with the terminal. We're hooked up. Okay, we are synced. Call the drone now. We need to get her out of here. Let's get her out. I don't think I missed anything down there. Only 4 hours? I guess the medical bay is coming in use. We're back. I need to talk. I'm on the medical level. She's totally unresponsive. I don't know what to do. I don't even understand how she's still alive. I keep going back to the image of her, blue, silent, staring out of the silt. A thin stream of bubbles flickering from her mouth. How long has she been there? The pressure alone should have crushed her at that depth. This doesn't make sense. But she is alive. I need to talk to her, but... nothing. I want to understand. I want to know what is going on here. I haven't seen her in years. Not since she left, and now... here she is. Do you ever imagine all the things you are going to say to a person when you see them again? Do you ever imagine all the things you are going to say to a person when you see them again? Kinda. I wanted to scream at her, to whisper to her, to tell her... I came here for her. I don't know why I did, but I did. I think it's because I had hope. I think it's because I had to hope for something to change, for there to be an explanation, for those months we spent together to mean something again. Sorry, I'm not making sense. You're making sense. This makes twice. 2 times she's turned my life upside down. At least this time I knew what I was signing myself up for. It's not like I had anywhere else to be. The further I am from that dying planet, the better. What comes next? We keep going. She was looking for something out here. Something important enough to leave her like this. It's our turn to take that forward. To find that explanation. I think she built that lab in the bloom to study those mineral skeletons. Artifices, she called them. But something was leading her deeper, beyond the drop-off. Let's start with those ROVs she sent out. Maybe they found something we didn't. I'll mark their last known positions on the dive map, and I'll be here until you're ready to go. The digested remains of an unknown creature. Snare veils. Medical subject. Minae no mora. Comatose state. Muscle loss apparent. Erratic brain activity. Administering sedative. There's Ellery. And there's Minae. We found her. But she's somehow able to survive crush depth and breathe underwater. Either breathe underwater or she's still had a suit. I don't know. Some sort of... I don't know. How the fuck is she alive? She's still alive! I never thought I would see her again. Not after she sliced the core from the base on Kepler 62F and took the shuttle to God knows where. I spent weeks slowly freezing in that base, waiting for the Baikal team to come get me. After that, it all fell apart. There was never any life on Kepler 62F. Minae had faked the whole thing. Yes, I do, Dome. She wanted the data core she knew Baikal would provide when she gave them evidence of first contact. Baikal blamed me, and my work as consulting biologist collapsed. I limped back to Earth to take a post-grad position on that dying planet. There is little need for marine biologists in a place where the only oceanic life is kept in tourist-choked reserves. That's where I stayed, watching the endless exodus of humans, with enough money to leave, looking out across the dead ocean at the pinpricks of their shuttles' rocket flares, until Minae called me here. I should blame her for everything, but I just want to know why. Perhaps if she ever wakes up, I can ask her. So, wait, Minae faked first contact of life on the other base? Huh. Colasata, snare veil. Velum laqueus. Snare veils are unique, soft-bodied creatures that resemble a thin sheet of silk studded with lights. Found in tangles of multiple individuals, their hypnotic swaying and flickering lights make them difficult to see in their entirety. But from my initial observations, they appear to be flat panels of bioluminescent cells, which are faintly veined with both a nervous and digestive system. Veils survive by capturing creatures which swim into their surface, somehow stunning or killing them, and then digesting them on the exterior of their bodies. I have also observed veils passing prey from one individual to another, suggesting that they have some form of social interaction between individuals. Analysis of these digested remains they leave behind might give some clues as to their predatory behavior. Analysis of the unknown remains found nearby a veil tangle shows that this creature captures and kills its prey through an electrical charge. This charge, presumably produced by electrical organs that sit beneath the veil's outer membrane, can produce incredibly high voltage outputs, and the remains analysed show significant damage from these electrical discharges. The remains also suggest that the veils use electric pulses to control the muscles and nervous system of captured creatures, forcing them to swim deeper into the grip of the veil when captured. The veil's manipulation of the electrical signals seems highly nuanced, and they may also use them for the detection of prey, even communication between individuals. In order to confirm these theories, analysis of veil tissue is necessary, although this might prove difficult. Ooh. We can't get in there. I want to, but we can't. We don't have a cutter. But I think that's the next thing we're gonna get. Okay, so we can either go up towards this, one of the ROVs, or up to towards the other ROV. Strange geological readings. Let's go to the one with strange geological readings. It looks closer anyway. Back. Down into the abyss. Glinting debris from the disabled ROV traces back into the stand. Unmistakably basalt, formed in some volcanic trench eons ago. This outcrop is outlined by a faint light of Galice's suns. I'm not going to say the 667cc, like, it's Galice. Let's go to the right. East of the ridge, a small rise opens into a flat plain of dimpled silt. A featureless expanse, lit flatly by the suit's lamps. An occasional silver bubble breaks the surface of the flat silt, carrying a cloudy trail of sediment behind it. Repeated trails of unknown creatures mark the sand, wandering back and forth across the rippled surface. We don't see them. Where are they? Out in the dark. Bubbles of methane trickle out from beneath the silt, creating silvery columns wreathed in sand. What creatures are out here that we can't see? Ones that might be running from us because of the light, or our noise. Ahead, the seeps have created small craters in the seabed, where brine is gathered in clouded pools. What is that? Brine pools. A shimmering landscape of ghostly pools stretches out in the lamps, the dense brine sitting in craters like undersea ponds. Brine pools. The methane seeps here must be forming them. The pools themselves will be toxic and also anoxic. Let's navigate carefully. They are beautiful, fog-skinned puddles sunk into the seabed, but they are dangerous. Brine pools are a real thing, and they're cool. Seeps imprint geological patterns of the underlying rock into the silt, forming both deep pools and untouched rises. Creature tracks. Patterns of dents in the sand show the paths of feathery creatures that cross from pillar to pillar in slow and purposeful loops. Bristling fronds. An abyss creature. These swaying fronds, are they a colony or a single creature? I'll start recording my observations. These feathery fronds are growing along the edge of the brine, waving their matted, leaf-like limbs through the water. Each of the many limbs of these branching creatures is carefully dipped into the brine pools, one by one, before pulling back. Occasionally, this creature will sweep its limbs back into the hairy mass of its body before thrusting them out again. What is it doing? The waving shapes of complex fronds caress the surface of the pools, sweeping the brine into wispy shapes. Ooh, that's a lot of brine. Crab-like creature. Ooh, we got crabs. These crawling creatures seem to keep to themselves. Let's keep track of where we find them. Oh, I didn't read it. Fuck! This crab-like creature is moving slowly across the sea floor, with a large translucent crest protruding from its back. On closer inspection, the large translucent crest appears to be gas-filled organ, or bubble of some kind rising from the silt in the shell of EV. Damn, I didn't get to read it. Oh well. A mucus bubble sits on the silt, shed from the back of the bubble-skinned creatures which are trekking the perimeter of the pools. I do have a log, but I don't think it doesn't have the things in this menu. It only has what she says down here. While some pools transition into bare sand, others are choked with fronds. Mucus tissue. Mucus bubble. Multi-chambered mucus bubble found in the ocean floor. Ooh. The thick hairs on each frond seem to be mottled with reddish substance. Does it grow there amongst the hairs? Oh. These wandering creatures noisily chew away at the rock and silt of the ocean floor, filtering it for nutrients perhaps? Among the pools, a pillar of shining bubbles rises up towards the surface. A complex pattern of pools fills the seabed, shimmering with toxic chemistry. When a limb is removed from the brine, the red substance matted into the hair seems to glow brighter, shifting in color. It seems that the substance caked onto these creatures' hair is reacting to the brine somehow. Perhaps it's helping them feed? Microbial mats. Bright orange carpets of microbial growth gathered beneath the waving fronds, stretching away from the pool. We could sample them here. Let's get a sample. Bacterial colony. Ooh. Are these fronds bacterial? Brine mat. An orange bacterial mat sampled from beside a brine pool. From this slight elevation, the gleaming surface of a huge brine lake can be seen out to the east. Brine lake. Frond colonies. The dipping motion of the fronds as they filter the brine creates a hypnotic sense of motion along the edges of the lake. Glistening bubble. A bubble shed from the back of a creature sits at the edge of the lake, brine curling around its base. A bank which skirts along the edge of a large shadowed pool. Go that one first. That brings us further around. There might be something over here. There's I saw that there was a sample. Oh. Just a mucus bubble. Damn. Ooh. Brine eaters. I'll log these creatures as brine eaters. You can take a look at my observations back at base. Branching, feathery fronds, which grow alongside brine pools, carefully dipping their matted and strained limbs in and out of the brine. Glowing shape. A faint pulsing glow, like lightning in a storm, can be seen beneath the cloudy brine. Sample candidate. Okay. We're going into the brine. Let's get out of here. The brine lake is vast. I can't see the other side. What might be hiding within its toxic fog? Do you think life might survive out there? Yeah. It's true that this planet has shifted my ideas about what's survivable. Perhaps there is something out there, waiting to be discovered. A brine shell. A shell found amongst the brine stained with chemicals. Different individuals of this species seem to have varying sizes of bubbles in their backs. Are they carrying oxygen in there? I don't know. It's hard to see... Oh, there's something flying past. Brine waves. Something out in the dark is sending slow waves to this burning beach. What could live out there? Oh. Are we really gonna go into this brine lake? Let's go somewhere else first. The water is a blinding, milky white flow in the headlamps. The edge of the lake is stained with brightly colored bacterial mats, which recede beneath the cloudy, toxic mass of the brine itself. Let's go back here first. Brine pools mark the plain on all sides, densely packed around the vast lake. There's so much to go. This is a spiderweb of places to go. This hole cuts deep into the bedrock of the plain. Could this be... I'm gonna catch you, I'm gonna catch you, I'm gonna catch you! Fast creature. These rapid swimming lobster-like creatures have dark shells, with very large translucent tails. How do they move so fast? These creatures are so fast! Their dark coloring makes them hard to see, but let's keep track of them. Among the ornate fronds, I can see a neon orange of microbial carpets spreading out from the pool in the complex growth patterns. This hole cuts deep into the bedrock of the plain. Could this be caused by a seep? It looks more like an impact crater. Impact crater? No, we've already got a brine mat. We don't need another sample. The curve of the lake shore extends out of sight, and the other side of this vast depression is too far out into the dark to be seen. What was that? The haze lifting from the lake and the pools all around make visibility very poor. Vague shapes flit in and out of the columns of bubbles. There's so many places to go, damn. Brine shore. This lake is bigger than any seep I've seen on Earth. The volume of methane trapped in the bedrock must be impossibly vast. Between the wall of the ridge and the corroded shelf is a wide strip of pale silvery silt. Pools like fogged cauldrons mottle the seafloor. Bacterial mats bring bright smears of colour to the scene. A thin strip of sand pushes out into the lake, surrounded by toxic pools. Hemmed in by the toxic pools, this small rise looks out across the landscape of deep craters and unrelenting darkness. Some of these more northern pools are completely empty of brine, leaving only a shallow layers at their base. The pools seem to continue to the north, but why do they stretch so far from the main body of the lake? Pools seem to cover a huge part of the seabed, radiating out from the lake in ornate patterns. Empty of brine, this crater was clearly caused by a large impact, showing radial cracks in the rock spreading from a single point. This silt bank allows the passage between the two parallel strips of craters heading north. The brine gathers in this small crater like a settled storm. It would be beautiful if it wasn't so toxic. Damn, there's so much. I feel like I'm gonna get lost and forget where I haven't been. This small plain is strangely clear of creatures' tracks. They must not cross into this northern zone. The ROV must have been attracted by some signals among the pools, but it became another victim of the corrosive brine. Oh, this is the disabled ROV. We found it. One of Minae's ROVs. It looks like this one was disabled by the brine. The supplies Minae equipped it with are still intact though. We can resupply. Open the terminal, and let's see what this little guy found down here. Oh wow! You found something big, didn't you, little guy? It looks like... Is that a wreck? Incredible! The debris field stretches all the way north and west from here. It must have been large, a freighter or a research vessel. We have to go see this thing. Come on, we can head back to the base after. Debris field, whatever caused the string of impact craters, parts of it lie all around, huge jointed forms of corroded metal. Ah, I don't want to forget that there's stuff this way. There's so many ways to go. Fuck. Let's go to the empty crater. Isolated oasis. Despite the toxic brine on all sides, this glowing oasis clings to its rock, even as it is melted away. What's this? A seed. Deep pollen. Large floating particles produced by deep sea plants. Ooh! Glowing fan. Precariously seated among the pools, this fan shows signs of decay, its amber waves of light stuttering and flickering unevenly. Bright fan. These fans seem to play a central role in the ecosystem here. I'm going to start recording data. Like fans found in the bloom, these creatures are fan-shaped filter feeders. However, these variants glow with a cold fire. Trefoil petals, which gather around the glowing fans. What are these petal-shaped creatures? They only grow around the glowing fans. Let's start logging the data. Oh, they're two separate creatures? Damn. Trefoil petals which gather around the glowing fans of the deep They angle themselves toward the light, like expectant children. We got 2 different samples? Fan sheath. Damn. Oh, wait, over here. Glowing shape. Something is emitting a faint glow beneath the brine. It has the sharp shape of a shell, or perhaps skeletal remains. Let's get it. Let's grab it. Ah, it's another one of the brine shells. Damn, we're running out of shit. A thin causeway leads between the pools, away from the lake. Unlike the shallow seep marks in the south, these deep craters plunge through the silt and the bedrock into the bedrock. This rise projects out towards the vast brine lake to the east, cutting between deep pools. Poisoned remains. Along the edge of the larger pools, the shells and skeletons of creatures loom out of the silt, victims of the toxic brine. Alright, now I think we should go into the lake. I want to see what's in the lake. I swear I can hear the brine eating away at the suit. The ocean floor rises back out of the pale brine, a series of rounds of pools. This meager patch of high ground provides a dreamlike respite from the milky waters. Strange creatures crawl across the lake. Shed carapace. A small, smooth carapace sits between the pool's half-sunken sand. Could this island be a refuge for juvenile creatures? Stilt-legged stone? How can these creatures survive out here among the brine? I'll have to start keeping notes on their behavior. This tall, crab-like creature towers above the brine pool. An unusual assortment of rocks, shells, and bones adorn its back. The creature has shed its bubble crests out on this desolate island. The carrier is nowhere to be seen, perhaps lost to the brine. The sand between the pools runs down into the lake. Is this island being slowly swallowed, or is that just my paranoia? Ah, another mucus bubble. I don't need another mucus bubble. Glowing shape. From this small pool at the lake's edge, a pale blue pulse is flashing. I swear I see lights blinking in response out above the brine lake. It's just a brine shell. I've already got one of those. Damn. Is there anything out here? I can see tall, sharp, dark shapes in the dark. Pale beacons flicker across the lake. What are those? The sharp shapes of remains jut out from the pale brine, like mountain peaks below the clouds. The edges of the lake are like a miniature landscape of craters and depressions. A stained slab of basalt juts out of the brine pools, providing a tiny safe zone from the toxic liquid. This small bank of silt is slowly slipping away beneath the cloudy surface of the brine pools. So we come back out. The mucus bubble shed from the back of a creature sits on top of a small pile of silt as if it were an egg. Just another bubble, isn't it? Yeah. A radial pattern of depressions in the rock suggests debris expanding outward from an impact point. Okay, so maybe I've found all the places that we missed. Now we're going towards the wreck. Here's the edge of the debris trail. Something sank here, and by the spread of the debris, exploded. It has been here for years, decades. The metal is corroded to little more than a frame. That means Minae wasn't the first person to come here. Something big happened here. Something no one was meant to find. Spooky. This huge piece of debris has been distorted and twisted by the brine, leaving it totally unrecognizable. What did Minae find down here? Bulbous, rust-red lamps are scattered across the pale sand like seeds thrown into the winds. A spar of the frame sticks out of the sand like fractured ribs, fronds, and other growths closing the gaps between them. The broad, flat plates of the wreck sit at right angles to each other, forming a complex of angular walls. A curved strip forms a narrow walkway between the pools beside the wreck. A split in what must have once been the vessel's hull allows passage into the overgrown interior. Let's not go inside quite yet. Wreck Oasis. Oh, before I lose that. Each one of these shelled creatures seems to have its own territorial loop, an area of the seafloor it systematically searches through. A warm glow lights the cracked and corroded skin of the twisted plates in sharp relief. Fronds crowd this piece of debris, some eaten away by local grazers. Broken limbs lie all around. We could sample one of the smaller pieces. Bristly limb, a piece of hairy branch broken off from a creature. Pale petals. Each of the wide petals has patterns of stomata and stamen across its surface, and from these, some kind of pollen is drifting out in clumps. fan has tucked itself into the side of a vast corroded plate, forming an oasis in the shadow of the wreck. Significantly taller than the bloom fans, these creatures seem to favour the rocky substrate of the ocean's floor's basalt pillars. We don't need another fan sheath. Let's go inside the ship. What happened here? Is all this ecology man-made in actuality? Or did they come here and discover this too? Is the bloom man-made, but everything else is fine? Melted corridor. The brine has left everything but the vaguest shape of the vessel impossible to define. We are entering the main body of the wreck now. It's little more than a husk. It is impossible to tell anything from these rusted plates. Whose ship was this? The local ecosystem looks to have been scraping away at this thing for decades. Nothing much left for us. Ovoid creature. A new creature again? These pale, pulsing creatures seem so passive. I'm going to start taking notes on them. These ovoid creatures sit pulsing on the edge of the deep oases. They are glassy and soft, like particularly boiled shellless eggs. This bay, perhaps once a cargo hold, is being scraped away at by frond-like creatures, releasing flakes of orange rust into the water. Half buried in the sand, the industrial seals on the equipment locker have held. It must have been protected from the crash within this bay. Look, a still sealed dive suit locker. Let's see if we can get it open. Okay, I think I can lever. Yes, it's open. There's not a lot here. Wait, this cutting torch looks clean enough. With a little work, this could be salvaged. Is that Bicaltech? Hard to tell. Looks compatible with this suit though. I'll stow it and see what I can do with it when we get back to base. When close to these creatures, you can feel the pull of their strong filtering actions as they absorb water and push it through their bodies. Breached plates. The plates of the wreck buckle and bend outwards here, bent away by some huge interior force. Impact craters. The craters clustered around the vessel suggests an explosive force of some considerable magnitude. Most of the wreck must have already been lost to the brine. Only this section remains precariously settled on the silt bank. Could this set of seeps have been created by the wreck's impact? Perhaps it breached the bedrock, protecting the methane below. Whatever its origin, the wreck has become a sanctuary for the ocean's life. There is a beauty to its reclamation. These creatures seem to produce small, branching buds, in the same way that a hydra grows a clone of itself in order to reproduce. At this creature's interior sits a sphere, surrounded by a reflective membrane, bathed in light from the transparent sections of its body. A lung crest. I'd like to call these lung crests. Those bubbles they carry on their backs are so cumbersome. A shelled crab-like creature, which scavenges the ocean floor in search of nutrients, carries a mucus-lined bubble on its back. The crested shell sits on the edge of the brine pool, its former inhabitant nowhere to be seen. We could sample it here. Is this a sample we've seen before? No. Crested shell. A shell striped with crests, found among the brine pools. Let's get rid of the duplicate brine shell because we're running out of space very quickly. We're gonna have so much to read when we get back. None of this adds up. If there's a wreck here, then there were people. And if there were people, well, why doesn't everyone know about this place? About its incredible life? We've spent centuries looking for life outside of Earth and found nothing. I've seen so many dead plants, so many barren worlds. I've certified each of them clear of life, just so an exoplanet extraction core can pick them clean for maximum profit. Strip mine them for resources our ever-expanding species needs. This place is impossible, one in millions. And yet, it is already marked by our greedy fingerprints. Who brought this ship here? This has to be the history Minae wanted to uncover. Let's head back to base. There's more to find, I'm sure of it. North of here, the debris field fades away as the ocean floor slopes towards the abyssal plain. Yep, that's it. So, it turns out capitalism is the true villain after all, again, and human interference. Strip mining planets for maximum profit? Perhaps this place is mineral rich and they really want to strip mine it, but there's life here and they have to... Something has happened. Come to medical now! Minae is... growing. I haven't dared to go in. I can't make sense of the readouts. Her vitals are unreadable, but she is still alive. Whatever kept her alive on the slopes is changing her somehow. I've been sat here, watching her. I don't know what to do. Do you think she's in pain? I don't think so. I hope so. She doesn't seem to be suffering, but then I don't know what this is. There are procedures. Every base stack is equipped with quarantine systems. I can authorize the lab to be purged. End it now. Is that still Minae? I can't. What do you think? Should I authorize the purge? No. No. You're right. That's Minae. I didn't come all this way out just to... We need to monitor her, to try to understand what is happening here. Thank you. I won't give up on her. I won't be afraid of what I don't understand. We can find the answers together. Okay. We can do this. I've hooked up that cutting torch from the debris field. I hope it helps. I need some answers. Let's find that other ROV. But first, we gotta deposit some samples. So many samples. Is Minae still Minae? What has this place done to her? I have barely been able to leave the medical level, though I dare not enter the surgery. Did she do this by choice? For those few months on Kepler 62f, it was clear that Minae was struggling with something. We never spoke about it, but behind her intensity lay a frenzied self-doubt. She never talked about her family. All I knew was that she was a rare spacer, born out in the black, on some orbital military base. Some days she wouldn't leave the berth, just curled up so small, staring silently out. Would she do this on purpose? Open up her suit and willingly slip into the deep? I suppose it doesn't matter now. All I can do is monitor her. At least I'm not alone. Oh, we haven't found any entries for that one yet. Probably for this one too. Yep. Damn it. Damn it. Cool. So we've got 4 that we have no entries for, that we can't do anything about. Bugger. Error. Vital signs unclear. Foreign genetic material detected. Rapid tissue growth. Error, 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 error. Oh god. Was it a mistake to let her stay? I don't know. Lung crest. Pulmodosum cristatum. Lung crests resemble crabs in their basic anatomy, though they are instantly recognizable by the large, multi-chambered bubbles they carry on their backs. The function of these bubbles is unclear, but each individual produces slightly different bubble forms, and individuals have also been observed with their bubbles at different levels of inflation. They seem to be filled with gas, but without analyzing one directly, we cannot know which gases. To feed, lung crests use their complex mouth parts to chew up silt and rock, slowly and systematically working through their territory. These territories seem to be unique to each creature, and I have yet to see one lung crest trespassing on another individual's garden. A direct sample of their mucus bubbles might help us understand more about their behavior. After finding a shed lung crest bubble, it has been possible to analyze its contents. The majority of the bubble is filled with oxygen, with some amounts of methane, nitrogen, and carbon dioxide. It seems that in its processing of minerals and compounds found in the silt and rock of the ocean floor, lung crests are able to produce and process these gases, perhaps with the help of a bacterial symbiote living inside their bodies. But what are they producing these bubbles for? Could it be that they are defensive structures, able to be shed and popped when the relatively slow-moving and vulnerable lung crests need to escape? But then why the carefully managed cocktail of gases? Further investigation is needed. In particular, we should look to inspect a lung crest shell. Sampling a lung crest shell has made the function of their mucus-lined bubbles clear. After seeing lung crests scavenging around and even entering into their brine pools, it seems obvious that their bubbles are in fact natural scuba gear, allowing them to move around the anoxic environment of the brine lake. The shell confirms this, with a clear vent in the shell which allows the lung crest to access the gas within the bubbles without breaking it. This unique evolution means that despite their slow speed and sheer ignorance of what goes on around them, lung crests are highly resilient, their thick shells and bubble crests together forming a kind of analogue for my own dive suit. I'll be sure to say hello to these fellow divers the next time we visit the Brine Lake. Whoa! Oh, the bubbles are much bigger than I thought. Huge. Oh, that's cool. Crab. 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 Scatter. Grab. Damn. Grab. Brine eaters. Plumosus muriavorus. The brine eaters are hairy, frond-like creatures that live in clumps around Gleesa's deep ocean brine pools. Looking like large, dark, overgrown ferns, they sway their branching limbs through the brine pools, whisking the cloudy brine as they do. Each frond is thick with bristles, which are often caked in a bright orange substance that reacts to the brine on contact, brightening as it does. What exactly this substance is or does is difficult to tell, but it seems that the eaters intentionally foster its growth on their limbs, using their matted hair to keep it attached. Individual eaters can be hard to isolate from the clumps they live in, making additional observations difficult. Understanding more about these creatures will require us to gather some samples. Analyzing samples of the bacteria which grows among the hairs of the brine eaters' fronds has shown that it is their main source of nutrition. This bacteria, which is extremophile in nature, is able to metabolize the toxic brine the eater dips it into. The eater repeatedly dips the bacteria into the brine in order to regulate its growth, with each dip causing a rapid increase in reproduction with the bacterial colony. When the eater's limb is thick with orange microbes, it then wipes it across another frond, where much of the bacteria is quickly digested by the creature, leaving just enough behind on the limb to regrow the colony. It seems the name brine eater is a misnomer. It is the bacteria which eats the brine, and the eaters which just consume the bacteria. Inspecting the tissue of a brine eater shows that despite a full nervous system, they have no central brain. In fact, regeneration present in the tissue sample suggests that a brine eater could be regrown from just a single piece of an individual. It is highly resistant to predatory damage, with no central self to orient themselves around. Brine eaters are a highly resilient form of life, which is perhaps how they have come to exist in one of the harshest environments on Glees, the shore of the brine lake. They are so resilient, in fact, that I would expect the brine eaters and their variants might be found all across this ocean, each one grown from the smallest fragment of one original individual deep in the past of the planet. They're like jellyfish. Cool. Starfish. Or starfish. Well, jellyfish don't have a central brain either. But yeah, I guess they're more like starfish. Can be regrown from any individual. But they also don't have it. Yeah, they're more like starfish. Jellyfish don't regrow from one part. Yeah, you're right. I don't know why I thought that. I guess there's no more in the brine pools. But there are still creatures that we haven't gotten, that we got samples of. Maybe we missed some bits over there, or maybe there's more over here. Maybe we missed some specimens. Well, first, we're gonna go down here. We have the cutting torch now. Don't we? Yeah, I'm pretty sure we have the cutting torch. Let's go sample this bacteria from the bloom and find out what the fuck is going on. Oh, there's the cutting torch. There's still a bit left to the game. Don't worry. Fair enough. It feels like similar to Elden Ring, how each time you get to a new part of the map and the map expands out even further. You don't know just how big it is. Limgrave just feels so... It feels so big, and then you zoom out, it's like when you find Caelid and all the other places. What are we doing out here, picking through the remains of the bloom? No more wandering, we should be heading deeper. That's where the answers lie. Call in the drone. Let's find that final ROV. Alright, fine. She doesn't want me to go and use the cutting torch. Fair enough. I'll follow the orders. Yes, miss. I feel like I missed something down here, because there were multiple creatures. Maybe I should go... Nah, hold on. Well, we'll go back to the first drone, because that was when the path split off to up to the north. Maybe the creatures I'm looking for are up there as well. Because we found all the brine pool creatures. So maybe those creatures are not just in the brine pool. Declining slope. The pale floor descends rapidly away from the ridge, in this direction towards the field of shadowy outcrops. Ooh. Complex creature. What is that? It looks like a whole menagerie of creatures caught in a silken net. A mass of tentacles and growths unlike anything I've seen. It's difficult to understand the anatomy of these creatures just by looking. Another group of towers rises towards the pale light, each strata piled with silver silt. In the shadow of the towers, there is deep silence. Pale passage between the towers, a pale blue light flickers over the rocks. A wide gap. Flanked by the towers, this path leads even deeper down the slope. Ooh. The veil reaches out toward the black basalt towers, emanating flashes of cyan light. More veils, and we need to be careful. There has to be a way to find a path through. A gap has opened up between the veils, allowing passage between their gauzy bodies. We don't want to get zapped, you know. This veil is in the process of splitting away from the rest of its body. Is this how veils are born? Or is this an injury? Even on the far side of the tangle, the veil's lights can be overwhelming, multiplying my shadow in all directions. Not that there's much to shadow upon in the deep dark of the abyss. Points of light. With the blinding veils behind me, I notice smaller pinpricks of light moving across the slope. There are other creatures here. Water bulbs. I'm calling these cryptic creatures water bulbs. Let's see what we can uncover about them back at the lab. Partially transparent, egg-shaped creatures, which feed by filtering water. A strange sphere sits inside their iridescent interior. An overgrown outcrop. This outcrop hides a wealth of life, from long-legged crawlers and filter feeders to blurred shapes which flit through the suit's lamps. This close to a veil, the light is unbearably intense, its repeating patterns leaving ghosts on my retinas. Are they that bright? Damn. Veils shimmer along the slope, marked with both glittering lights and dark remains of those creatures who strayed too close. Okay, so I should go back down and around before I go upwards. Make sure I didn't miss a sample down there. I have a fully empty thing, so it's not like I can just go through and refresh myself. Oh, well, fuck it. Oh well, went around the long way. On closer inspection, these petals are solid growths, not fragile objects. They sit like thin tree stumps in the sand, each with its own wide stalk. This huge curved fan glows with warm bioluminescence. Waves of amber light pass up its considerable height. Unlike the bloom fans, these deep water variants are covered with a translucent sheath of mucus, which protects their delicate spines. Cold fire bathers. Ooh. I'm going to name these cold fire bathers. They seem strongly linked to the light of these fans. These wide petal-shaped plants gather in groups and grow in the light of the deep-sea fans. Their pollen fills the water around each stem. From this side, this arrangement of pulsing and glowing forms nestled into the basalt is a sanctuary of life and warming light. Standing beside these clusters of egg-like forms, I can feel them filtering huge volumes of sea water in pulsing gulps. Whoops. May as well. I have one back at the base. Away from the outcrop, the silty slope begins to descend again. A large field of veils, whose pale blue light appears unpleasantly cold in comparison to the warmth of the oasis. A large tangle of veils stretches out ahead, producing a cyan light that softly flickers in the dark. Occasionally this creature stops and unfolds its tentacles and chambers to cover a broad area of water. Is it hunting? Don't know. The veils here create a set of gauzy walls, closing off the ocean around. There is beauty to being inside the field of veils, a song of light that makes it impossible to keep a sense of direction. We're gonna have to go through, aren't we? No wonder Minae's ROVs never returned. These veils are everywhere. Like on Earth, they must rely on predation to survive this deep, where little sunlight reaches. The tangle of veils create a translucent, twitching maze. Better look at these creatures shows they are fast swimming with their rear legs while using their tails to propel themselves somehow. Who knows how temporary these gaps in the walls of the veil are? We should make use of them while we can. These looped veils are carrying a wave of light that passes from one individual to another and back again. What does this mean? An avenue between the veils, flickering shapes caught in the soup's lamps suggest other creatures make use of this safe passage too. Like city lights beyond a curtain, I can see warm pinpricks of an oasis behind this waxy veil. Some creature has shed or lost a segment of its tail shell here. Among the veils, it looks small enough to sample. Well, ready to get zapped? Alright. In the name of scientific study. Yay. Tail segment. A section of shell from a creature's with a translucent tail. And again. Basalt shelf. The veil seems to sit away from these basalt shelves, preparing to seed themselves in the silty dark between rocks. How are we gonna get over there? There's gonna be a lot of zapping to get there. Ah, not yet, not yet. We don't have anything to replenish our power, so we should just keep going. Remember that's there though. The veils are coming together ahead. I hope this gap will remain open long enough for us to pass through. This veil is hung with husks of its catches, like dark clouds obscuring the starlit sky of its bioluminescence. And what digested remains. You can use these. I think we have these back at the base, but I'll keep one just in case. Past the drifting sheets, another pattern of light skirts around the edges of the tangle, a mutual predator to the veils, perhaps. A gap in the tightly knotted veil leads to the welcoming amber light of another oasis. This fan shimmers with waves of cold fire, bathing the surrounding oasis in warm light. Cold fire fan. I'll call these cold fire fans after those mesmerizing flame-like pulses. Filter-feeding fans that beneath a mucus sheath pulse with warm light, often surrounded by other creatures, befitting from their glow. Deep oasis. Another garden of creatures rooted into a dark basalt shelf, a welcome break from the intensity of the veil field. I'm pretty sure we have those back at the base. Deep pollen. No, we don't need that. So there was nothing over here. Good thing I didn't risk it. Oh. It's hard to tell if this creature is a colonial creature or is a single individual. Whichever it is, we should keep our distance to avoid those tentacles. The side of this outcrop where the warm light of the fan does not reach is absent of life. Oh fuck, it went away. At the edge of the outcrop, in the light sand slope, a shallow burrow leads down. Eggs glint within. We could sample them here. These creatures seem to follow the same routes back and forth through the veils. Why do they limit themselves to these pathways? We got an egg. Or a couple of eggs. Beaded eggs, a string of orange eggs found in the deep ocean. At the northernmost tip of this outcrop, a dark pillar rises up, its stacked layers. Abyssal sail shell. I'm calling these abyssal sail shells. Those wide tail plates are instantly recognizable. Small dark creature with a large translucent tail shell that allows it to rapidly move through the water, navigating the veil tangles safely. At the northernmost tip of this outcrop, a dark pillar rises up, its stacked layers edged with pale silt. I need to drink some water. Water time. How long have we been going, actually? Whoa, almost 4 hours? Damn, it has not felt like that long. As the basalt shelf sinks back into the silt, the ocean floor falls away into a huge field of glittering veils. These pale, pulsing creatures have noticeable growths budding off their central form. We could sample them here. Ooh. Gotcha. The bud of an egg-shaped creature found in the deep. Neat. Ooh. Living outcrop. Tiny creatures crawl silently along the layers of dark rock, leaving behind small, strange marks in the shallow silt piles. Yep, we've already This is looped back around to where we were. Away from the outcrops, the Veil claims what territory they can. This field is the largest I've seen, wandering away into the deep. Ooh. A group of looped veils output the same pattern in an ornate game of call and response. Are they communicating with each other? A split in the veil leads into their ornate interior. Navigating this huge tangle will be a struggle. We can do it though. The veils are reaching in towards this point on the ocean floor, like vines seeking the sun. Here the walls of veils come in close, turning away from the core of the tangle at strange angles. The veils on each side are mimicking each other, both in shape and pattern, their pulsing lights playing a mirror game. From this middle point of the tangle it is impossible to see beyond the glimmering walls of the ocean beyond. To the ocean beyond. A large basalt pillar sits on the shelf, its dark skin textured by the lights of nearby tangles. The glow of... ooh, what's that? Deep Orrery. Ooh. With all these orbiting polyps and strings, I am naming this creature the Deep Orrery. An ornate creature that casts a net-like arrangement of tentacles and polyps to shock passing prey into submission. The glow of an amber fan and the soft shapes of its petals' audience can be seen just behind the black rock. We don't really need it. Shielded from the veils by the basalt pillar, this fan hosts a small colony of petals, their spores speckled across its sheath. The petals here have had their roots dug up by some creature. We could take a sample of them here. Nice. Petal root, the bulbous roots of a deep sea plant life from a glowing oasis. Bright tangle. These glittering veils have formed a close perimeter around the outcrop, but seem to be keeping their distance. At the tip of the shelf, fed by a soft current, these creatures pump moving water around the outcrop. Is this why the veils stay away? At the far end side of the veil field, this outcrop sits silently, dappled with warm pockets of life. Bodies of creatures that were trapped in the veils lie piled in the silt. The veils must pass them here from tangle to tangle. This more digested remains, I see, of little creatures that weren't careful enough. This gap between tangles allows passage further down the slope. Another clearing in the field surrounded by possible routes both through and past the flickering veils. The curving walls lead to another gap in the tangle, filled with light and movement. So this is back to a One tangle has split away from another here, moving down the slope from the field. As tangles split away from each other, the density of the field starts to thin out. A shell segment gleams among the large, semi-digested husks dumped by the veils. It looks small enough to sample. Let's go! Oh, it's a tail segment. We've seen one of those already. Another piece of territory yet to be claimed by the patterns of the veil field. Two veils that look like they have recently split present a narrow gap in this maze. Oh damn, we have not been this way. I'm starting to think that there is some battle for territory between veils as they search for the best spots to cast their nets. Wow, damn, I've kind of sequence broke by the looks. The tangle turns back on itself, revealing new paths into its interior. Among the hypnotic patterns of the veils, other lights move, pinpricks like LEDs shifting in the loose orbit of an unseen body. Huh. We've been here. Oh, is there another direction that Oh, I must have missed this. Well, I'm glad I didn't sequence break, I just cut through to a place that I might have otherwise missed. The gap in the middle of the tangle where the lights are dimmer, the sickening, shifting sensation lessened. Here the veils close in towards each other, sheets passing up against one another with gentle waves. It's not completely linear, yeah. I just don't want to miss any samples. The veils meet here, but through their translucent skin, I can see the dark shape of an outcrop. Unlike the other outcrops, this dark rock is being invaded by the veils, subsumed by the tangles. Something clouded and purple glints in the silts beyond the veil. It looks small enough to sample whole. Oh, I want to see that. Should I risk it? Fuck yeah, let's risk it. Oh. Shed polyp from a colonial lifeform lost on the ocean floor. Let's go back through. And I guess there's only one way through here. Fading fan. A wilting fan faintly pulses while spines of its body have broken away, still faintly glowing in the silt. We could sample them here. Glowing spines. Hell yeah, we can use these to get our power back. And now we go back. Fuck it. Another refuge in these dark waters, glowing with life. Surrounded by its audience of light-bathing petals, the fan's sheath shimmers with amber light like a bonfire. We've got that already, but we can use it. Among the elegant shapes of the petals, small, stilt-legged creatures stride, cleaning particles from their pitted surfaces. We don't need that. At the edge of the light from the fan, the petals are pale and twisted away, perhaps turning to another source of food. Faint flickers of light silhouette the tall pillars of basalt shards, rising up into the faint blue glow above. Dying veil, that's what I wanted. Twisted back on itself, this veil is being eaten away by creatures, its defensive abilities neutered. We could sample some tissue here. Yes! I wanted to learn more about this veil. Hell yeah. That's exactly what I wanted. The tangles of veils close around the outcrop here, encasing it in a prison of glinting light. Where the veils intersect, strips of bioluminescence flower, creating bright folds in their gossamer material. After that last veil, the dark returns. Outside the reach of the veils, the dark, cool water is a welcome change from the incoherent patterns of lights. We seem to be through. No more veils ahead. Unlike the other outcrops, this one is free of life. Is proximity to the veils vital for the other colonies' coexistence? Another shelf appears out of the dark, but nowhere on its surface can I see the warm glow of a fan. Yeah, so you can come at it from two directions, by the looks. The slope continues its irresistible descent towards the distant abyssal plane. So we're not quite at the abyssal plane, we're right above it. The tangle is behind us now, leaving only the dark deep ocean ahead, so this is where we could have come from. The veils thin out, the last of their light falling across the sandy slope as it descends deeper into the water. I wonder if there's an achievement for getting to ending every node. I hope there is, because that's what I'm trying to do. Not for an achievement, just because I like all the writing. And there might be samples. Disabled ROV. Another of Minae's ROVs scattered across the outcrop. We should still be able to use its transmission core to reach the base. Here, in the middle of the outcrop, an ROV. This one was carrying a supply cache too. We can recharge and refill our oxygen. Let's access its map data. Open up the terminal when you are ready. There we go. It seems like this ROV was disabled by the veils, like the other one. This can't be right. The mapping scans report a large physical anomaly just north of here. From the data, it looks like a structure. That's impossible. Maybe the veils fried the sensors? Either way, we should go check it out. But before we do, we need to drop off all these samples. 5.1 hours. Has she slept? I hope she slept in some of that. Damn, we've got so many samples now. So many. Ah, damn it. Yes. Cold fire fan. Damn it. So something around, I missed something around the brine pools. Okay, so there's one creature that I haven't gotten all the entries for around the brine pools, and that's its 2 things for its entry. The abyssal sail shell, Crusta velum abyssi. These shelled creatures, with their large translucent tails, are surprisingly fast for animals of their kind. Occasionally spotted weaving between the veils in the deep, they use this speed as a way of evading the slow-moving tangles. They are also dark in colour and small, making them a difficult target for other creatures that might hunt them. They use modified back legs with wide oar-like shapes to both propel themselves and make rapid turns, but most distinctive of all their features is their large translucent tail, which stands like a crest behind them. From my observations, these tails seem to be a form of propulsion for sail shells, but until I can expect a fragment of one in more detail, this cannot be confirmed. After finding a segment from a sail shell's tail, it seems obvious that these creatures use their tail for propulsion, but rather than flapping them like a flipper, the sail shells use their tails to catch currents and allow the flow of water propel them through the deep ocean. Their tails and the rest of their shells are incredibly light, which means that even a mild flow is enough to grant them significant speed. This may also be why they follow the same paths. Their propulsion is best suited to using currents where they find themselves in, rather than choosing their own route. But why travel back and forth through dangerous veil territory over and over? Perhaps a look at a full sail shell, even a larval one, could help us understand this. After analysing a clutch of beaded sail shell eggs and expecting their anatomy, I've started to understand their behaviour. Larval sail shells are already forming modified limbs with thin, thread-like whisks on them. These limbs move so fast when the sail shell is swimming that they can't be seen. But in the dormant eggs, they are clearly visible. These whisks would allow the sail shells to feed by catching small larval creatures, as well as any other particles of nutrients found in the water. This must be what the sail shells are doing when they follow their carefully selected paths back and forth through the water. It is also likely that the veils attract, trap, and produce tiny particles that the sail shells feed on, hence their close proximity. The results for the sail shells is a very risky feeding pattern. Ooh. Oh, if I ever make a video about this, drawing some of these creatures and the underwater, oh, that would be so rad. Oh. I would make this into a series just to be able to draw some of those vistas. That would be great. The cold fire fan, Vanus febris. These tall, fan-shaped filter feeders can be found in the deep ocean of Greece, where they glow with a distinctive warm bioluminescence, the centerpieces of the deep ocean's oases of life. Cold fire fans and their flame-like pulsing light attract many other creatures to live around them. How this benefits the fan isn't precisely clear, but there are many possibilities, including defense and sustenance, although the fans themselves do not lack in defenses, as unlike the smaller and paler fans which can be found in the bloom, cold fire fans have a sheddable mucus sheath, which stops them from becoming overgrown with other plants and creatures. Sampling and analysing these sheaths might give some further insight into the role they play in the fan's eating habits. Getting a hold of a cold fire fan's sheath has brought many other samples with it. The sheath itself was covered in pollen, microbiological colonies, even fecal matter. It seems that the sheath acts as a barrier for larger particles, blocking them from reaching the fan's spines, where smaller particles pass through and are digested by the fan. The fan's light is then a beacon, specifically intended to bring creatures into its glow, benefiting the fan with the resulting increase in particles in the local area. The sheath stops this from becoming overwhelming for the fan, and can be shed in order to protect it. The patterns of the fan's light remain mysterious though. Why does each individual display different pulses and waves at different times? Analysis of the cold fire fan's spine we acquired shows that fans not only possess light-producing cells, but also light receptors too. These incredibly sensitive cells are found on the front of the fan and show the fans are able to perceive the lights of other creatures, including other fans. As each fan tends to its own oasis, perhaps the fans use their light as territorial markers, signaling to other fans that their basalt column is taken. They may even use them to communicate with other species, responding to the flashing patterns of the veils, for example, and letting them know not to approach their territory. Like lighthouses, cold fire fans seem to act as both safe havens and warning signals, depending on the creature they are signaling. Ooh. Internal light receptors. Oh. So it's like a fan with a sheath over it. Snare veil, velum laqueus. Having sampled a dying veil, analysis of the tissue demonstrates what a unique creature the snare veil is. Its tissue is threaded through with powerful neural connections, lined with a digestive surface, like the interior of an animal intestine, and coated with a layer of light-emitting cells. It is as if a single creature has been turned inside out and rolled out until it was a flat plane, millimeters thick. The snare veil is a totally distributed form of life, with no centralized brain, stomach, or other organs at all. It is self-same in its entirety. Any other piece resembles another. What we saw as a dying veil might have been purposely separating itself, as each piece of a veil could grow another tangle. No wonder they have dominated portions of the sea floor. Ooh. Cool. Water bulbs are pale, soft, egg-shaped creatures with transparent sections in their outer membrane. Water bulbs filter water through their interiors, which are hollow, apart from a single gelatinous sphere, which sits at their center. Their anatomy is so unique that it is difficult to understand what exactly these incredibly passive creatures are doing. They seem to have small, stump-like legs at their base for stability, but it is unclear if they use them to move. Water bulbs seem to simply sit and filter the water while bathing in the pale light at the edge of the fan oasis. Perhaps we could understand more by analyzing the petal pollen and other particles they seem to absorb while filtering the oasis water. The analysis of the petal pollen, which reveals them to be water bubbles with a skin of waste matter, fails to add much more to understanding of the water bulbs. It's clear that they gain nutrients, and perhaps some of the oxygen housed in their interior from their consumption of the pollen, but unlike the glowing fans, they don't seem to be reliant on it. Instead, they display a surprising level of passivity when absorbing and filtering much of their local environment. They seem to be without predators or prey, and are ignored by many other life forms. I've noticed that some specimens of buds, small growths which suggests they are growing clones of themselves to reproduce. Perhaps by carefully sampling one of these buds, you might get a miniature picture of the water bulb's anatomy. Analysis of a water bulb bud has provided an important insight into their anatomy. The bulbs themselves are mostly hollow, with only a thin membrane filled with pores separating them and the water around. The interior side of this membrane is iridescent, lined with hexagonal crystals of guanine, producing an effect like the eye shines seen in terrestrial cats, sharks, and other creatures, but on a much larger scale. These crystals reflect light onto the spheres at the center of the bulb, which is, in fact, a huge and impossibly complex compound eye. This eye can see in a broad spectrum of light, including UV and IR, ultraviolet and infrared, with at least 36 different photoreceptor types. What are these water bulbs observing? And why, when they are so passive? Just the thought of their total vision makes me nervous in their presence. They're not water bulbs, they're water eyes. Bulbus aquaticus. Whoa. giant fucking eyes. Deep orrery. Conventus bathyspheria. The orreries are a complex mass of polyps, tentacles, and other structures that form a web-like structure that swims as one. Unlike a terrestrial jellyfish, orreries appear to be asymmetrical, with marked differences between individuals. Many of their orbiting sections are thin, blade-like membranes, but structures that resemble strings of translucent pearls, thread-like tentacles, and bulbous polyps also make up a large part of their bodies. Each orrery has a central mass, which is protected by a series of cloud-like soft membranes, twisting around each other like a rose. Close encounters with orreries have shown them to be dangerous hunters, capable of tangling up and shocking their prey into submission. They also deploy shocks as a defensive measure when faced with a larger creature, like me. Perhaps further study of their prey might help. Having analysed some tissue from the orrery's agile prey, we can begin to understand their behaviour. Unable to match other creatures for speed, orreries seem to rely on the dangers presented by the deep-sea veils beside which they are often found. Veils funnel cautious creatures into the orrery's nets, while the orreries themselves don't seem to be affected by the veils and are able to traverse them easily. Perhaps the two have a symbiotic relationship, hunting together in a mutually beneficial manner. Outside of this, orreries appear to be mostly lone hunters, and I've seen no social interactions between individuals. But what exactly is an orrery? I would like to understand more about their strange, uneven forms. Perhaps a polyp that has been shed might provide details on their anatomy. Analysis of an orrery polyp has demonstrated that they are indeed colonial creatures. They appear to be made up of both specialized animals of the same species and different creatures of different species. Based on this, the orreries may need to be reclassified, although that would require an extensive study and equipment that I don't have access to. What I can say about the orreries is that each one seems to have specialized its own growth based on its requirement. Many of the zooids that are part of the colony are able to shift between medusoid, dactylozoid, and tentaculozoids and gastrozoids forms with incredible speed, depending on whether the colony needs to focus on propulsion, feeding, defense, or digestion. This makes each orrery a complex social and biological structure, like a floating city rather than a lone hunter. Ooh, so they're not exactly a tentacle lone hunter, they're like a floating city of many different small creatures. Ooh. Cool. I don't know how I would possibly begin to draw one of those. I have no idea. I assume that's the spread out form of it. Coldfire bathers. Coldfire bathers are pale, thick-stalked trefoil plants found in the deep of Galice's ocean. The only known specimens currently identified have all been gathered around glowing fans, basking in their warm light. This suggests that the bathers are photosynthesizing this bioluminescence in order to live, and therefore cannot live outside of the sustaining glow of the fans. This has a knock-on effect for other life, as groups of bathers then attract other creatures, perhaps to feed on or hide within them. The bathers also seem to produce a type of pollen made up of small particles that float on the deep water currents. This may well be a seasonal or rare event that my visit just happened to coincide with, or the constant state. Further study of this pollen would be desirable. Analysis of bather pollen has shown that they are released around bubbles of oxygen, a waste product of the plant's photosynthesis. These bubbles are surrounded with a layer of pollen particles which weigh them down so that they do not immediately rise to the surface. Instead, these bubbles drift through the water near the bather and in many cases settle on a nearby fan. The fans then consume these bubbles, absorbing both the oxygen and pollen along with anything else which reaches them. This direct exchange of energy and nutrients makes the fans and their bathers closely linked, a strong bond formed under the principle of mutual gain. The sample we acquired of a bather root network shows the presence of bulbs within their root network. These bulbs appear to be a way of the bathers storing the energy gained from their photosynthesis of the fan's bioluminescent light. Concealed in the rocky cracks of the softer, silty substrate of the sea floor, they must allow bathers to outlive the fans, which die off or stop producing light. This suggests that despite appearances, it is not the fans which maintain the bathers, but the other way around. The bathers then, despite appearing like worshippers of the fans, clustered around their bases, create the conditions for the fans to grow within, ensuring themselves a regular supply of light in exchange for oxygen. In a sense, the fans are their captives. So they're not... Interesting. I imagined them to be a lot more like the petals from above, but these are much more like tables with very thick bases. Yeah, very thick anchored stems. Very cool, very cool. Solculta febris, so cool. She's up here at the crew terminal. At least she's keeping away from Minae, whatever's happening there. Well, I'm gonna go back to the brine pools and try and search around for whatever creature I missed. What creature did I miss down here? Am I even able to continue? There. Stilt-legged stone. I'm seeing this creature take dead remains from the brine pool and decorate itself with them. Trophies of shell and bone. I must have missed the glowing light of it amongst the pools. Gotta keep an eye out. Somewhere around here there's one more of those. Oh. Maybe I can make it go faster. Nyum. Is this the start? Yeah, this is the start. Okay. So I haven't missed any crabs over here. There! Blue smears glow faintly on the remains piled on the strider's back. Are these bioluminescent creatures or chemical phenomena? There's another one somewhere in here, I'm betting. Maybe back down into the lake. There! There we are. I'll call these mournful creatures brine striders. They are walking lanterns, calling out into the dark. I didn't properly read its description because I was trying to rush out of the brine. So let's find that one from back here and read it. Where'd it go? There it is. That's a lung crest. Brine strider, there it is. A stilt-legged, crab-like creature that clears the brine pools of dead remains, providing a habitat for glowing life on its wide shell. Now we'll go back and see that one. We should be able to scan those samples now. There we go. The brine strider. Colobathrarius latus. Brine striders are towering crab-like creatures which live amongst the brine pools. Their tall, reed-like legs keeping their carapace from the toxic waters that claim most other creatures. Bones and shells of creatures that die in the brine pools adorn the strider's carapace, pulled from the brine by a pair of extended claws. Among these rocky piles, smears of bioluminescence glow blue. This pulsing life, whatever it is, finds shelter in the remains the striders collect. But why do the striders make these creatures a home in the first place? I'm also curious how, if the striders are vulnerable to the brine, do adolescents reach the heights required to survive? In order to understand more about these obscure creatures, perhaps we need to analyze the glowing brine-clogged remains they gather. Analysis of a brine-clogged shell reveals a complex chain of chemical reactions. Among this chemical richness, a form of extremophile bacteria feeds on the brine's chemical traces. When the striders collect these remains, they also collect the bacterial colonies that live on them. Removed from the brine, but still feeding on the chemicals saturated shells and bones, these bacterial colonies produce a bright glow, a side effect of their metabolism. Do the striders know that they are turning themselves into pale beacons? What is the nature of the relationship between these bacteria and the striders? I need to understand more about the life cycle of a strider and how they grow to such heights. Analysis of a juvenile strider's carapace paints an enigmatic but beautiful picture. The adornments of shell and bone only begin as the brine strider matures, each arrangement being the life's work of that individual. Though the striders often live apart from each other, it seems that they still communicate. Their adornments, which grow taller and brighter, act as beacons. They can signal for food, signal to mate, they even keep company from afar. Gathering remains in their glowing bacterial colonies is a ritualistic process, a way for each of these large and ponderous creatures to create an identity within this ecosystem through a living, growing work of biological sculpture. How do they get tall though? We don't know. Whoa! Cool. They have two claw-like gathering limbs. 4 to 6 meters. Damn. These guys are big. Taller than twice the size of a person. Fuck, that would be so cool to draw. Oh my god. Well, now the main thing left is the anomaly. How long have we been going? 4.5 hours? It might be time to call it. As much as I've been loving this, I do need to take a break. This is great. I so want to learn more about this ocean. I want to know what the hell has happened to her. Why she's like growing. Why she was down there. How could she survive such pressure? I suspect that she was not just human, but a biologically modified human, because they said that she came from a military base. So perhaps they modified her and her modifications were changing and slowly killing her, perhaps. I don't know. That's my theory. And that she stopped there, not because she had to, but because her condition, her sickness, got to a point where she couldn't move anymore. It knocked her out. But her sickness also allowed her to go down to those depths in a free dive as a last-ditch effort. Another time. Thank you for joining me. This has been great. I cannot wait to see more. See you later!